Picture the dark, churning waters of the Atlantic Ocean in 1915. A German U-boat is lurking just beneath the surface. It fires a torpedo, and the water erupts against the hull of the British ocean liner RMS Lusitania. The ship sinks rapidly. 1,198 people die in the freezing waters, including 128 Americans. Instantly, an agonizing geopolitical crisis lands on the desk of the White House. Thomas Woodrow Wilson was the 28th President of the United States. Before entering politics, he was an academic, a historian, and the president of Princeton University. He was a deeply religious moralist who believed the United States had a providential duty to spread democracy and peace globally. When World War I erupted in Europe in August 1914, Wilson immediately declared the United States completely neutral. While staying out of the fighting, the U.S. experienced a massive economic boom by supplying food and munitions to Britain and France. America was a nation of immigrants. Millions of German Americans sympathized with the Central Powers, while others favored the British and French. Wilson warned that entering the conflict would tear the country's social fabric apart, and he staked his political survival on this strict isolationism. He even won his 1916 re-election on a highly successful slogan, "He kept us out of war." Despite his promises, remaining neutral became impossible. Desperate to starve Britain into submission, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare in 1917, sinking neutral American merchant ships on sight. Then came the final insult, the Zimmermann telegram. British intelligence intercepted a secret message from the German foreign minister proposing an alliance with Mexico. Germany promised to help Mexico reconquer Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona if they attacked the United States. This outraged the American public. On April 2, 1917, Wilson stood before Congress and asked for a declaration of war. The deeply religious president who promised his country peace was about to plunge his nation into the brutal realities of industrialized global warfare. To rationalize the slaughter, Wilson framed the conflict as an idealistic necessity, famously stating that the world must be made safe for democracy. He tied American military force to a sweeping moral mission. The United States abandoned its isolationist roots and took up arms as a global crusader. To fight for democracy abroad, Wilson instituted a massive military draft at home. The government eventually raised an army of nearly 3 million men, organizing them into the American Expeditionary Forces. To ensure public support, he created the Committee on Public Information. This agency pumped out aggressive propaganda, producing posters and movies that depicted Germans as bloodthirsty monsters. It fueled intense anti-German hysteria across the country. To crush anti-war dissent, Wilson's administration passed the Espionage and Sedition Acts. These laws made it a federal crime to criticize the government, the flag, or the military draft. Thousands of people were arrested, including prominent political opponents, simply for speaking out against the war effort. His administration carried a dark contradiction. To fight a war for global democracy, Wilson systematically suspended civil liberties and instituted severe domestic tyranny at home. In January 1918, before the slaughter even ended, Wilson delivered his 14-point speech. This conceptual diagram maps out his blueprint for a lasting global peace. He demanded open diplomacy, freedom of the seas, and self-determination for ethnic groups. His most ambitious goal was creating the League of Nations, an international parliament to resolve disputes diplomatically. When the war ended, Wilson traveled to the Paris Peace Conference. The European public, exhausted by the violence, welcomed him as a messianic savior. But behind closed doors in the Palace of Versailles, leaders like French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau were hardened by years of slaughter. They wanted vengeance. They demanded that Germany accept total guilt for the war and pay crippling financial reparations. Wilson was forced to compromise. He abandoned almost all of his 14 points, stripping away his own rules of open diplomacy just to get the Allies to accept the creation of the League of Nations. He sacrificed the foundation of a fair peace to buy the framework for his global alliance. By allowing a punishing treaty, he inadvertently planted the seeds of future global resentment. Returning to America, Wilson faced a hostile Republican-controlled Senate. The opposition was led by his bitter rival, isolationist Senator Henry Cabot Lodge. These senators fiercely opposed joining the League of Nations. They feared Article X, a specific provision that required member nations to defend each other. They argued this would drag the American military into endless European wars. Unwilling to negotiate, Wilson went on a grueling cross-country train tour to take his case directly to the American people. The physical strain destroyed his health. In October 1919, he suffered a massive stroke that left him partially paralyzed. For the remainder of his presidency, he was largely incapacitated. His wife, Edith Wilson, essentially acted as a shadow president, strictly controlling all access to his bedroom. The uncompromising moral rigidity that drove his vision for world peace broke his body and left the American government dangerously leaderless. The United States Senate ultimately refused to ratify the Treaty of Versailles. America never joined the League of Nations. Without the economic and military backing of the U.S., the newly formed International Parliament lacked the actual strength to stop global aggression. Before he left office, Wilson made a chilling prediction. He warned that if the nations did not unite to guarantee peace, a far more destructive world war would occur within a generation. His prediction was completely accurate. 2 decades later, the unresolved tensions of Versailles allowed the rise of fascism and the outbreak of World War II. Sweeping moral idealism, forced through without pragmatic consensus, directly set the stage for total disaster.